Most people would throw this chair straight in a skip. The legs snapped clean through, right at the joint, and if you took it to a furniture shop, they'd either laugh you out the door or charge you more than the chair's worth. But what I'm about to show you costs less than a cup of coffee from a motorway service station, takes about 20 minutes of hands-on work, and it creates a bond stronger than the wood around it. I've had carpenters with 30 years of experience watch me do this and go quiet for a second before asking, "Wait, that's it?" Yes, that's it. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to do it yourself, on almost any piece of wooden furniture in your house. I'm not going to waste your time with long-winded introductions. Let's get straight into why this chair is broken, why most people give up on furniture like this far too early, and how a repair costing pennies can outlast the rest of the piece. If you've ever picked up an old dining chair, a stool, or a small side table and felt it wobble under your hand, you already know the feeling. Something's not right. Usually, it's not the wood itself that's failed, it's the joint. Chairs take an enormous amount of stress every single day. Every time someone sits down, leans back, shifts their weight, or drags the chair across the floor, that stress travels down through the legs and concentrates at the joints. Over years, sometimes decades, the old animal hide glue or basic wood glue that held everything together starts to dry out, shrink, and crack. Once that bond weakens even slightly, the joint develops tiny movements you can't always see with the naked eye. Those tiny movements, repeated thousands of times, eventually snap the wood itself, usually right where the leg meets the seat rail, because that's the point under the most sideways stress. This particular chair is a good example. It's a mid-century dining chair, solid beech frame, the kind you'll find in charity shops and car boot sales all over the country for a few pounds. The back left leg is sheared away from the seat rail. If you look closely, you can see the break follows the grain of the wood almost perfectly. That's actually good news, because it means we're dealing with a clean structural failure rather than rot or insect damage. Clean breaks like this are some of the easiest repairs in all of woodworking, and yet they're also the number one reason perfectly good furniture ends up on the curb waiting for the council to collect it. Why do people throw pieces like this away instead of fixing them? Mostly because they assume it needs a professional. They picture clamps, specialist tools, maybe even a trip to a furniture restorer who'll quote them $80 or $100 for what looks like a simple job. And to be fair, if you took this to most repair shops, that's roughly what you'd pay, because their time isn't cheap and they've got overheads to cover. But here's the thing. This repair doesn't need a workshop. It doesn't need power tools you don't already own. It needs one small tube of the right adhesive, a few basic items most people already have in a kitchen drawer, and a bit of patience while it cures. Restoration beats replacement for a few solid reasons. First, cost, obviously. Second, and this one surprises people, a properly restored joint is often stronger than the original factory joint because modern wood adhesives have come a long way since the glue that was used on furniture built 60 or 70 years ago. Third, there's something genuinely satisfying about bringing a piece back to life instead of adding to a landfill. And fourth, if this chair happens to have any age or character to it, dovetail joints, solid timber, hand-shaped curves, you simply can't buy that quality new anymore without spending serious money. Before you touch any glue, you need to actually understand what you're looking at. Rushing this step is the single biggest mistake I see people make, and it's usually why repairs fail within a few months. Start by picking the piece up, or if it's too large, get down to eye level with the damaged area. You're looking for a few specific things. Cracks. Run your finger along the break. A clean crack that follows the wood grain like the one on this chair leg is a straightforward glue repair. A crack that runs across the grain at an angle or splits into multiple directions is more serious and might need reinforcement, which I'll cover shortly. Loose joints. Grab the piece and gently rock it. Any movement at all in a joint that should be rigid tells you the glue has failed, even if the wood hasn't visibly cracked yet. This is actually the easiest kind of damage to fix because you're often just cleaning and re-gluing rather than repairing broken wood. Missing wood. Sometimes a chip or splinter has come away entirely and is either lost or sitting loose nearby. You'll need filler or a small offcut of matching timber for these. Water damage. Look for dark staining, a slightly soft or spongy feel when you press the wood, or a finish that's gone cloudy and white. Water damage can be superficial, sitting just in the finish, or it can have soaked into the timber itself, which changes your whole approach. Paint or finish damage. Flaking varnish, peeling paint, or a finish that's gone tacky and sticky usually just means the old top coat has failed with age. This is cosmetic and doesn't affect the structural strength of the piece. Rot. This is the one to take seriously. Press a screwdriver or your thumbnail into the timber. If it feels soft, crumbly, or the wood gives way easily, you're dealing with rot. And that section either needs cutting out and replacing, or in severe cases, the piece isn't worth restoring at all. Scratches. Surface scratches are cosmetic and easily dealt with through sanding and refinishing. Deep gouges that catch your fingernail need filling before you refinish. Broken legs. As with this chair, check whether the brake is clean or splintered and whether the leg is still structurally sound above and below the brake or if it's weakened along its whole length. Loose glue joints. Old glue often looks slightly yellow, cracked, or powdery when a joint separates. Scrape a bit off with your fingernail. If it flakes away easily, that's confirmation the original bond has failed. For this chair, we've got a clean crack along the grain and a joint that's separated at the same time. That's actually a fairly common combination, and it means our repair needs to do two jobs at once. Rebuild the crack and restore the strength of the joint. Before any glue goes anywhere near this wood, everything needs to be spotless. Dust, old wax, grease from years of handling, and general grime will all stop new adhesive from bonding properly. I use a soft brush first to knock off loose debris, then a cloth lightly dampened with white spirit to lift any wax or polish buildup. Don't soak the wood. You're cleaning it, not bathing it. Let it dry fully before moving on, which usually takes about 15 minutes in a normal room. Around the brake itself, you'll often find flaking varnish or old glue residue sitting right in the crack. This has to come out because glue doesn't bond well to old glue or old finish. It bonds to bare wood. I use a fine flathead tool, sometimes just an old kitchen knife, to gently scrape out any loose material from inside the crack and joint. Take your time here. You're not trying to widen the crack. Just clear out anything that would stop fresh adhesive from reaching bare timber on both sides. Lightly sand the surfaces that will be glued using a fine grit sandpaper, somewhere around 180 to 220 grit. This isn't about reshaping the wood. It was about opening up the grain slightly so the adhesive has something to grip into. Wipe away the dust with a dry cloth afterwards. If you're also sanding the surrounding area for cosmetic reasons, work through progressively finer grits, starting around 120 for rough old finish and finishing at 220 for a smooth surface ready for staining later. This is where the famous $3 fix comes in, and it's genuinely this simple. The product is a wood glue, but not just any wood glue. You want a PVA-based wood adhesive, sometimes called a Type 2 wood glue, which is specifically formulated to bond timber fibers together far more strongly than the wood itself will ever crack again in that same spot. A small bottle of this costs somewhere between $2 and $4 at any DIY shop or hardware store. Here's the trick that carpenters find so surprising. Instead of just squeezing glue into the crack and clamping it shut, you want to work the glue into the crack using something thin and flexible. An old credit card, a palette knife, or even a flattened lolly stick works brilliantly. Open the crack very gently, just a millimeter or two, by flexing the wood carefully and push the glue right into the depth of the break, not just along the surface. Then work the crack open and closed a few times, almost like you're pumping it, which draws the glue deeper into the wood fibers and coats every internal surface. This one step is the difference between a repair that fails again in 6 months and one that outlasts the rest of the chair. For the joint where the leg meets the seat rail, the same PVA wood glue does the job, but the technique is slightly different. Apply a thin, even layer to both surfaces, the inside of the joint socket and the tenon or dowel that fits into it. Don't overdo it. A thick, gloopy layer of glue actually weakens a joint because it stops the two wood surfaces from making direct contact with each other. You want just enough to wet both surfaces fully. Once the glue is in place, the joint needs to be held under pressure while it cures. A furniture clamp is ideal, but honestly, an old ratchet strap, a bungee cord, or even tightly wound masking tape can do the job on a smaller piece like a chair leg. The key isn't the tool, it's consistent, even pressure, holding the joint tightly closed while the adhesive sets. Wipe away any glue that squeezes out with a damp cloth before it dries, because dried glue on the surface will stop stain or finish from absorbing evenly later. If there's a small gap or a missing sliver of wood, this is where wood filler comes in. For gaps under about 3 micrometers, a standard wood filler tinted to match your timber works well. For anything larger, or for a repair that needs real structural strength, for example, if the crack had splintered rather than following a clean line, a 2-part epoxy wood filler is the better choice. Epoxy cures harder than standard filler and can actually be sanded and shaped like wood once set, which makes it brilliant for rebuilding missing corners or chunks. Occasionally, you'll come across damage too severe for glue and filler alone, a section that's rotted through or a chunk that's simply missing. In these cases, you cut out the damaged section cleanly with a small saw, shape a new piece for matching timber, and glue it in using the same PVA wood adhesive, clamped in place until cured. This is a bit more involved, but for anyone comfortable with basic tools, it's very achievable on legs, rails, and flat sections. Sand the repaired area flush with the surrounding wood. Work from a coarser grit if there's excess filler or glue to remove, then move up to 220 grit for a smooth, even surface ready for finishing. If you're matching the repair to existing wood color, apply a wood stain with a clean cloth or brush working with the grain. Apply thin coats rather than one thick one. You can always add more color, but it's much harder to remove it once it's too dark. Let each coat dry fully before deciding if you need another. Once you're happy with the color, seal the wood with a finish appropriate to how the piece will be used. For furniture that gets regular handling, like chairs and tables, a wipe-on polyurethane or a hard wax oil gives excellent protection against future wear, spills, and scratches, while still looking natural rather than plasticky. A final buff with a soft cloth, sometimes with a small amount of furniture wax, brings out the natural sheen of the wood and makes the whole piece look cared for, not just repaired. For a repair like this, here's the complete list. A soft cleaning brush, white spirit and a cloth, fine sandpaper and a couple of grits, a flathead tool or old card for working glue into cracks, PVA wood adhesive, a clamp or strap, wood filler or epoxy filler if needed, wood stain matched to your piece, and a wipe-on finish or wax. That's genuinely everything. Most people already own half of this list before they even start. Always work in a well-ventilated space when using stains, finishes, or white spirit, since the fumes can build up quickly in a closed room. Wear gloves when handling stains and adhesives to protect your skin, especially if you've got sensitive skin or you're doing this regularly. If you're cutting or shaping any replacement timber, proper eye protection is non-negotiable, even for a quick job that feels too simple to bother with. And always let adhesives and finishes cure for the recommended time before putting weight or pressure on a repair. Rushing this step is how a good repair becomes a repeat repair. The most common mistake is using too much glue and not enough clamping pressure. People assume more glue means a stronger bond, but a joint swimming in adhesive with no pressure, holding it closed, will actually be weaker than a thin, even layer under firm clamping. The second mistake is skipping the cleaning step. Gluing straight over old finish or old failed glue, which almost guarantees the repair will fail again. The third is impatience, handling or using the furniture before the adhesive has properly cured, which can undo hours of careful work in seconds. One trick many professional restorers use is warming the glue slightly before application, which makes it flow more easily into tight cracks and joints. Just standing the bottle in a bowl of warm water for a few minutes does the job. Another is using a syringe or a fine-tipped applicator for injecting glue into cracks that are too narrow to work with a knife, giving you much more control and less mess. And for joints that have failed repeatedly, some restorers reinforce the repair with a small hidden dowel or timber pin running through the joint for extra mechanical strength on top of the adhesive bond. Though for most household repairs like this chair, that's not necessary. Preventing future damage often comes down to where and how furniture is used. Keep wooden furniture away from direct heat sources like radiators and fireplaces, since dry heat causes timber to shrink and joints to loosen over time. Try to maintain reasonably stable humidity in your home because wood expands and contracts with moisture changes, and that constant movement is what weakens joints in the first place. Choosing the right glue matters more than people think. PVA wood adhesive is ideal for the vast majority of household repairs. It's strong, easy to work with, and affordable. Epoxy comes into its own for structural repairs where you need real gap-filling strength, or where the wood itself needs rebuilding rather than just rejoining, such as a rotted or missing section. As a rule, if the two surfaces you're joining fit together tightly, PVA is your best choice. If there are gaps to fill or serious structural concerns, epoxy is worth the extra cost. For sanding, start coarse and finish fine. A rough 80 or 120 grit for stripping old finish, working up through 150 and 180, and finishing at 220 for a smooth surface ready for stain. Never skip grits, as it just means more work later trying to remove scratches left by the coarser paper. When it comes to finishes, oil-based finishes and hard wax oils tend to suit furniture that gets regular use, like dining chairs and tables, because they're more forgiving of scratches and easier to spot repair later. Varnish and polyurethane give a harder, more durable surface, but can be trickier to touch up invisibly if damaged in future. And for outdoor furniture, always use a finish specifically rated for exterior use, since indoor finishes simply aren't built to handle rain, UV exposure, and temperature swings. Picture this chair as it started, a leg hanging by nothing but a few splinters, the joint gaping open, unusable, destined for a skip. Now picture it after, the crack invisible unless you know exactly where to look, the joint tighter and stronger than it's been in years, the finish restored to a warm, even glow that catches the light the way it did when the chair was first made. That transformation didn't come from expensive tools or professional training. It came from understanding the problem properly, using the right adhesive in the right way, and giving the repair the time it needed to cure.